Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the secrets of public speaking. If you know anything about me, then you'll know that in a previous life, I was a full-time professional public speaker. I went into places like schools, businesses, colleges, things like that, and I gave presentations on a whole range of subjects. In this job, I was tasked to make these presentations engaging, entertaining, and of course, educational. Not only that, but trust me, high school kids are the worst audiences. And so after a few years of talking to them, I realized that if I could talk to high school kids confidently, then I could talk to anyone. That being said, public speaking is hard. It's genuinely hard. So I'm going to share with you 7 points of, I guess, wisdom that I've learned over my 4.5 years now of being a professional presenter, speaker, and performer. On this channel, we talk about self-development, self-confidence, helping you achieve your goals, and things like that. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, then do consider hitting that big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. So my first secret of public speaking is to face the fear. Again, public speaking is hard. In fact, glossophobia, which is the fear of public speaking, is one of the most common fears in the world, affecting apparently over 77% of the population. So it's no surprise you're maybe a little worried about it. Often when we stand up in front of people and try to speak, there's this kind of fear of judgment that all eyes are on us and everyone's judging us, looking at you and judging you for everything about your personality and yourself. But when we have this fear of judgment, when we go up to speak in front of people, it actually takes away from the point. We start to worry about the way we look, if we're looking nervous, our body language, if we're stumbling over the odd word here and there. And actually, when it comes down to it, these things don't matter. Not really anyway. It's really not about you when you're public speaking, and in the nicest way possible, no one really cares. They don't care about you anyway, they care more about what you're telling them, the message you're trying to communicate, or the story you're trying to tell them. So when you realize that it's not all just about you, you get up in front of people and you start facing that fear, I promise just by tackling it head on, you'll realize it's not all that bad. Okay, secret number 2 is don't read a script. This one is such a huge mistake that I see so many people making, especially when they first start public speaking or getting up in front of a group. Really try your best not to use notes or to use a script in any way if you can possibly avoid it. Because trust me, nothing sounds like a person reading from a script than a person reading from a script. I know that sounds weird, but do you kind of understand what I mean? You'll have seen this yourself. Someone gets up in front of a group with like note cards or maybe even a whole A4 sheet side of lines and scripts and phrases and keywords and things like that. And they end up just reading it. Maybe it wasn't even their intention, but that's what they end up doing in the heat of the moment. I see this horrible thing all the time where they're clearly just reading from a script, but they do this thing where every couple of words they'll like look up and make some random eye contact because like that's what you were told in primary school makes a good public speaker. Sure, by all means write a script, write notes, know what you're going to say before you say it, of course. Heck, even practice it, learn it word for word if need be in advance. But don't use it on the day of the presentation. In fact, just use it as like a base level. Something you can talk around, something maybe even you can fall back on if you get a little lost along the way. That way you can just speak, you can talk, you can present as yourself, and you'll always have something to lean on. Secret number 3 is to be yourself and not just a presenter. This kind of follows on from my previous point that when you get up in front of people, you don't want to just be a presenter and just be sort of reading from a script and a robot. You really want to be yourself. Especially in a day full of presentations that you might have, there's nothing worse than someone getting up and being just presenter number 4 of the day. Be you. Incorporate your sort of weird sense of humor. Maybe use your natural voice as much as possible. I know it can be tough. I know I've got sort of a performing voice as well, but it's very much not a presenting voice. It's a performing voice. Use maybe a little bit more of a conversational tone of voice as well, just a normal tone of voice. That way that will instill a sort of confidence in you as well, because they'll know that you've done it before a million times, even if you actually haven't. My next secret is to let your personality shine through. Again, one of the biggest issues with people public speaking or presenting is that they do it like a presentation. You may well be giving a presentation, but let's face it, nobody likes presentations. They're always really formal, stuffy, horrible, dry, dreary, boring, whatever you want to say about them. Let yourself shine through. Let people see who's giving the presentation, who you are, and it will make what you're saying so much more relatable and engaging for your audience. Show us the side of you that makes you you, the weird sense of humor, the part of you that loves Star Wars, the part of you that has maybe like a funny dad joke to tell on the subject before you get into the serious stuff. People want to know who you are. They want to know why you're saying, what makes you tick, and information is nothing without context. you can be that context. Which leads me on to the next secret, which is to incorporate some humor and some stories into your presentations. No matter how serious, no matter how boring a topic, you can make it more interesting, more engaging, more fun with some jokes, some funny stories, some anecdotes. When I worked as a full-time professional speaker, in our office we had a bit about a saying that we used to say all the time, that if you're laughing, you're learning. Aside from just making your presentations more fun for people, studies have clearly shown the correlation between laughter, humor, fun, and retention of information. People remember things, they retain more information when they're having a good time and they're enjoying themselves. Think back to high school, I bet you your favorite subjects, the ones that you did best in, were the ones where you had a really fun teacher. So it's your job as the speaker, as the presenter, to make it as engaging and as fun as possible. Use jokes, use your sense of humor, use stories that you've come up with in the past for the subject matter. This is also an amazing opportunity to let your personality shine through by telling some personal anecdotes from your life that relate to what you're talking about. Which leads me on to my next secret, which is to know your stuff. If you're already a little bit scared of public speaking and you don't know how to get out in front of people, then the last thing you want to be worrying about is your material, is the stuff you're actually going to be talking about. Make sure you put the time in to learn your stuff, to know what you're talking about, to be confident in the words that you're going to say before you get up onto that podium, onto that stage, whatever it is. If you can eliminate every single source of stress on stage before you get there, then you're going to have a much easier time being able to focus on actually presenting. Fail to prepare and prepare to fail. Make sure you do the work, make sure you learn your lines, make sure you do your research before you get there, and you will find it so much easier to focus on speaking. Moving on to my next secret, which is to speak slower than you think you need to and pause for longer than you think you need to. Oh man, this is a big one. I am absolutely the world's biggest culprit for this. I am terrible at talking too fast, not pausing when I'm supposed to, especially when I get a little bit nervous or I'm uncertain of my subject matter. And I get it, it's a natural response. You know, if you're nervous, everything in your body speeds up and tenses. Your heart rate gets elevated, you start breathing a little faster, and therefore you start talking a little faster too. My mental rule for this, not like a mental rule, like a rule that is crazy or wild, like a rule that I keep in my, you get what I'm saying. What actually was I saying? Oh yeah, my mental rule for this is to always try and speak like 1 degree slower than you think you need to, and always pause for 1 beat longer than you think you need to. What I mean by that is that even when you think you're speaking slow enough, you're probably not. Even when you think your pauses are long enough, they're probably not. Don't be afraid of that silence. Don't be afraid to take your time. Whenever I record myself doing shows or speeches or presentations, it's the first thing I notice. I think back to what I did and I think that there was maybe one specific point where my pause was too long, maybe even awkwardly long. I go back on the footage to review that and I realized that it's actually quite the opposite. If anything, I could have left that pause for longer. Last but not least, my biggest tip here is to record yourself. I cannot emphasize this point enough. Record everything. I know it can feel really awkward to watch yourself and listen to yourself back. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice. Maybe with my girlfriend as the exception. That was a joke. Don't tell her I said that. I think I'm pretty safe. I'm not sure she watches these anyway, to be honest, so we'll see. But I promise you, once you get over the initial awkwardness of listening to yourself, watching yourself back, this tip will pay dividends in the future. The way that I implement this secret is actually something I got from a book called Maximum Entertainment by Ken Weber. He says that you should record every presentation or performance that you do and watch it back 4 times. You watch it once in full and you take notes of the thing overall. The second time you watch it back without the video, so you just listen to the audio alone. That way you're only taking notes on the way that you're speaking, the inflection of the voice, any patterns that you might have in your voice. Thirdly, you watch it back without audio, so just the video portion, don't listen to it. Then you can watch your body language, where you stand on the stage, the way you hold yourself, your facial expressions. And last but not least, you watch it one final time all together again with all the notes that you've taken in mind, and then you can form a plan as to how to improve next time, the steps you can take to just get better. Now this does seem like a lot, and that's because quite honestly it is, so I personally would not do this in-depth analysis for every single presentation you give, but it's definitely a useful exercise to do once in a while, let's say. say. That being said, I personally do record every single performance I possibly can. I do so I've got one for the record, secondly for fun moments for social media, and also so that I can watch it back and improve from it. And in these days, there's almost no excuse not to. We all have phones in our pockets, just set it up at the back of the room on a ledge or on a windowsill, something like that, and record yourself. So those are my 7 secrets for being a public speaking pro. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please hit that like button. It really does help the channel out. If you like this kind of thing, then please consider hitting the big red subscribe button as well. As always, stay awesome, and I will see you in the next one.
Just pulled up to the house, don't feel like getting out. I'ma just lay back and crack this window.